to Thru the Ringer. I'm your host, Tate Frazier. We are out here in Los Angeles, and we are sending, all of our thoughts and prayers, some donations as well, to all the firefighters out there on the front lines. And joining us now to talk about the football that's also happening, Cousin Sal. Sal, good to see you, man.
Great to see you. Great to see you safe and smiling and all those things, and trying to keep the positive vibes going.
Doing our best out here, Sal. That's all we can do. We are not in studio, but there is a lot that is happening that we are watching from our home studios in the football world. Before we get into my favorite game, let's start with First Tate, and let's start here with what we saw a couple of nights ago, Sal. And I say to you, the Rams look like they're primed for a Super Bowl run. Sean McVay, 8 playoff wins in 8 years with the Los Angeles Rams. 8 playoff wins as a franchise before Sean McVay. And this team with this defense, Sal, I'm starting to believe the hype. I think the Rams can make a run. What say you?
Yeah, they were not very good before Sean McVay. And back in 1973, I said, hire this kid, Sean McVay. I know he's very young, but I'm telling you, he's going to take you to the promised land. Now, what a great story if this happens with the Rams, right? So I'm not going to compare football players to first responders. Those men and women deserve all the credit in the world. But McVay, to get this team laser focused, to get the players and their families and their dogs, had to go all the way to Glendale, and they whipped the crap out of the Minnesota Vikings. And, let's see if they can keep it going. Go away, Eagles. Let it be Stafford and Goff in the NFC title game. And 16-1, pretty damn good. We could chip some of that money towards charity. Why not? A lot of worthwhile causes.
I like it. We can use some of the money that was supposed to be paid to Sam Darnold, maybe to donate out here to our first responders. We'll see if we can reallocate some of those funds, Sal. Next up, I say to you, let's talk about your Cowboys. They are the hot topic. Sal, I think the Cowboys should hire Coach Prime and the Clapper, maybe as the quarterback's coach. This is for content, for the sake of content. I know you don't want to hear this, but I think it has to happen. Coach Prime, the Clapper. We need nicknames. We need characters, Sal. How do you feel about this?
Can we talk about the Rams again? No, for the sake of content. What does that mean for the sake of content?
For the show. We need everybody tuned in, talking about it.
Great. So Jerry Jones can hire a kangaroo as the head coach. And for the sake of content, that would be
maybe a chimpanzee, right? We just had that movie, Better Man, whatever it takes.
Get a ton of back and forths out of it, but it's not a realistic means to an end of winning a championship, right? And neither is Dion. First of all, you got to give this guy a big payout. He was 13-11 in the last 2 years. I don't care about his Jackson State record. I really don't. And then, we wouldn't even have to. We'd have to draft the son, Shador. This is not something that Jerry liked. Maybe we'd have to draft the son that sucked, but I wouldn't even waste a 6th rounder on that kid. And if the Clapper gets any momentum, I am way out. I'm gone.
Yeah, we got Jason Witten in the mix as well, Sal. So it's basically whoever has any sort of connection to the Cowboys, we can throw names out. So
Jason Witten, I'd take. Jason Voorhees. I would take any Jason before Garrett.
Okay, there you go. I think you, Sal. Let's throw you out there. I mean, there's a lot of names getting tossed out. I know you care about the program, so let's get Cousin Sal's name in the mix. Last First Tate, Sal. Fading my picks on the Ringer pregame show is the wisest wager of the NFL season. If you don't know, let's give you a little behind the scenes here. I'm a utility guy, right? They call me up. They say, we don't have a guest. Let's get a guest pick in for you, Tate. I come in. I'm trying to throw some haymakers, throw some Hail Marys. And Sal, I have fallen flat on my face. But it's better than being 50%. I'll take 100% wrong rather than 50% wrong. But
I think you were.
Fading Frazier. That's the future, Sal.
Down goes Frazier. Yeah, you were 0-4. Is that what you were on the Ringer pregame show? But listen, hey, I was 14-4, and not everyone could be 14-4. Listen, even the mutts that we pay the other guys on the show, they didn't do well. So don't feel bad. You fell in love with the Chargers this week. I don't know what the heck is the story with the Chargers or with the Texans in the first round. Some kind of weird mystique with D'Amico Ryans in this first round. They could take a month off from being good at football and then show up wild card weekend. But we still love you, Tate. You're still our best utility guy.
Hey, I appreciate it. And the Chargers, they'll be back, Sal. I was fired up. I had my Natrone Means jersey. I was all the way locked in. And Derwin James, that interception, got called back, and everything went sideways after that, Sal. So
that's right.
You can feel my pain. But let's move forward and play my favorite game. Let's do it. Over, under reactions.
This will cheer you up.
Yeah, this has got to cheer me up. I give you a statement. You tell me if it's an over and under reaction. Let's start here. I say this, Sal. The Bucs-Commanders game saved a terrible wild card weekend of football. Over or under reaction?
It's got to be an underreaction. Like I knew once the college games were great, we might be in trouble with the pro games because we can't have it all. Everything terrific. Yeah. And And I also thought I was well prepared for a bad first round of NFL postseason games because that's what we go through in every sport. But as it turns out, I'd rather have 8 bad 1 p.m. games than just one bad game to stare at. I'm not actually right there with it so right now, but maybe they have a consolation bracket next year to spice things up. The games were not good this week.
Yeah, they were not good, but the rankings, right? We saw this in the college football. Everyone's talking about, well, it was ranked, it wasn't ranked properly. Look at all the seeds and how they're out of whack. In the NFL, it's quite the opposite. The seeds were correct. So congratulations to the game makers there for getting that correct. Next up, Sal, I say to you, the winner of the Bills-Ravens game should determine this year's MVP. Over or under reaction?
I'm going to say underreaction. I tried to convince Simmons of this the other day. Now, listen, I get it. MVP is a regular season award, as is Coach of the Year. But we saw, Kevin O'Connell, what happened with them. And all right, now he's going to win for Coach of the Year. Why don't we let the voters give them their votes back? Let's see one more game. Let's see Lamar against Josh Allen. If Josh Allen throws 4 interceptions and you give him the MVP, it's kind of weird, right? So let him see one more game. We're lucky enough to have this game. It should mean something.
And it's all arbitrary anyway, so why can't we just wait to make sure we don't look dumb? I think that's a very smart thing. And Bill Simmons has said this with the Oscars, right? Why don't we wait 5 years and then look back and say which ones actually should have won this? Maybe we do that with the MVP or maybe playoff games. Maybe in 5 years the Chargers actually won that game against the Texans.
No, that's still not going to happen.
Oh, it's not?
I get the sentiment.
I was trying to work that in. We'll see. We'll see if we can get that going. Next up, Sal, Mike Vrabel will make the playoffs before my very beloved Bill Belichick. Over or under reaction?
So Vrabel with the Patriots would make the playoffs before Belichick does with
college
the Cowboys.
Different playoffs, but same game. Yes.
Oh, I thought you meant as a Cowboy coach, Belichick.
No,
that's what he's going to be doing.
Please, please, God.
I really want to say Belichick wins a conference title because that's how he would have to make the playoffs almost certainly before Vrabel got to 10 wins. But I'm going to say, I hate to be a naysayer, I'm going to say neither happens, Tate. So what is that, opposite and equal reaction? I don't know what that reaction is.
Oh, I don't like that reaction is what I know.
Sorry. That's a tough slog for Coach Belichick.
I know. It's a lot to put on him, but I believe in Coach Belichick. I believe in Mike Lombardi. And don't you go fabricating any stories over there, Cousin Sal.
No way.
No fabricating. Next up, a Kansas City Chiefs three-peat would be the most impressive three-peat in sports history. Over or under reaction? I'm
going to say under reaction. I still think that we're never going to see 4 in a row in one of the 4 major sports like the New York Islanders did from 1980 to 1983. But I'm going to say under reaction for the Chiefs because of the competition they had to go through just in their conference. You look at Josh Allen, you look at Lamar Jackson, like these are guys that are interchangeable for MVP every single year, and that's just in their conference. And then they beat the Eagles, very good team. 49ers, very good team. And who knows? I don't know. The Lions, very good team. I think that would be pretty remarkable accomplishment and the best of the three-peats.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I do think in basketball, Jordan was doing what Mahomes could do as far as boxing out these other guys from winning titles, even though they are all-time greats. So there's some comparisons there. Next
I never saw Jordan play. I'll have to take your word for it.
I can send you the YouTube, Sal. You got to check the YouTubes. Okay. Next up, Saquon Barkley should apologize to anyone who bet on him to score an anytime touchdown. Over or under reaction, Sal? What say you?
Yes, under reaction. Score there. You're not going to lose the game. People are betting on you. Plus, I'm sure there's a clause in your contract. If you score a playoff touchdown, you make extra money. Like what? Why all this sliding? The NFL's become like a Wet and Wild towards the last couple minutes of these games. I don't really understand. If you could score. It's an exciting play in the NFL. You're not there to slide. You're not Ricky Henderson.
And we
Can you
saw
tell
it.
I lost money? Can you tell I lost money on the anytime?
I can tell you lost a little bit of money. We had Greg McElroy doing this during a playoff game, talking about you just got to go down. You don't score a touchdown. We're trying to be too smart in dumb games, is what I would say, Sal.
That's good. It's not like they were up 1 and about to go up 8, and then they could have tied it. They had it put away.
We don't have to be geniuses all the time. We can be dumb and score a touchdown every once in a while.
Yeah.
Next up, Notre Dame, Sal, will go down as the greatest national championship team to ever lose to Northern Illinois. Over or under reaction? Do you believe in the Irish?
I'm going to say overreaction. Now, I look back for a while, then I got bored. I'm like, well, did Yale lose to Northern Illinois in 1903? And I'm going to screw this up. But, I disagree with the premise that they're going to win. Anyway, I think Ohio State is too deep. They're going to bully them. They're going to force a couple of Riley Leonard turnovers, and that's going to be that. But Notre Dame, good job by them. They figured out the cheat code for these playoffs, right? Play a easy schedule, stay independent, lose one game, preferably not to Northern Illinois, get in the 5 to 8 range, and then play a home game and pull off an upset, and you're right there. So that's where I'll say it stops with them.
Yeah, and play Penn State once you get to those Final Four teams in the semifinals. So it was a great draw for Notre Dame, great draw for Marcus Freeman, and he could be out of town before we know it. Before we even, probably see each other again and talk on the show. We'll see what happens. Next up, Carson Beck deserves to get paid more than Will Levis. Over or under reaction? He's getting a lot of money for Miami, Sal.
If you said blank deserves to get paid more than Will Levis, 99 out of 100 times I would say yes, correct, underreaction. But I think
Mikey
this
Meatballs deserves to get
Mikey
paid more.
Meatballs, get it, whoever, like the hot dog vendor at Titan Stadium probably deserves more than Will Levis. But he killed me this year. But I'm going to say overreaction. Carson Beck was okay with Georgia. And I was getting $4 million to play Miami, not the Dolphins, the Hurricanes. And, it's gotten too out of control. How is Lombardi going to figure this out? How is he going to afford these guys, Tate? My God, you need a master's in economics to figure this out.
You got to have a lot of car dealerships and a lot of fundraisers. So,
I guess so.
Maybe some chicken franchises. We can go figure that out. We'll see what we can do, Sal. But yeah, a lot of money.
What was it, Buddy Garrity? It was Buddy Garrity. Right?
Yeah. Next up, Arch Manning. Speaking of college football, Arch Manning will win the national championship with Texas next season. He can get that number right now, Sal, at plus 650. Over or under reaction?
This is weird. I guess yours is gone. He said he was going to declare. He's going to be a top 100 quarterback as far as the draft goes. He'll probably be top 10 because everyone goes crazy with quarterbacks. I like Arch. I don't think I've seen enough to determine that he's the guy, but I'm going to say underreaction ultimately because I'm not impressed with the quarterback crop that I've seen in the last couple of years. So why not at plus 650?
Yeah, and they're going to have the talent around him, and that's because they're Texas. They got Mac Brown back in the fold, Sal. He's around the program again. I don't know if that's good news or bad news, but Texas fans seem to be excited. He did win a title there. Next up, Tyson Fury has at least 3 more retirements in him, Sal. Over or under reaction?
Again, I'll say underreaction here. I think he's going to be 37 in August. Let me look. So this is probably a smart move, but he's got some Elton John in him in terms of announcing retirements. Every 6 months, I feel like he's back. And he's also got a beautiful voice like Elton John, right? So he can really bring it home with Candle in the Wind. I'm going to say underreaction. He lives hard. He's going to need some money down the road. Probably in 2070, he'll fight Jake Paul's grandson, and that'll be that. So I'll say over.
I think Mike Tyson's paving the path that retirement is never the answer. You can always come back. You can always fight again. You can always get back in the ring. Next up, Sal, Cooper Flagg, the superstar at Duke, isn't getting the appropriate buzz that he deserves. Over or under reaction? You and I were talking about this off the air.
Well, you tell me, Tate. You're the expert on this, but I really felt like, he was going to lead every Sports Center with a Cooper Flagg highlight on days that football wasn't around, and that's not the case. I know he scored 40 plus the other night. I know he's minus 430 for the Wooden Award. I know Duke is now 5-1, but I still thought he was going to get the Zion buzz. Why hasn't it happened?
I don't know. I'm right there with you. Like you said, he's had the highlight moments. He's had some thunderous dunks. He had 42 points. First 40-point game in Cameron since J.J. Redick, the head coach of the Lakers in 2006. So there's a lot of reasons why it would be a talking point. And Duke has owned this sort of brand identity and building brands for quite some time. But college basketball, the powers that be, Sal, they don't want us to talk about college basketball. I don't know what's going on. But Cooper
Flagg, you were the powers up. I thought you were one of the powers.
I'm trying. I'm losing my powers. I'm trying to get my powers back.
Do you want my trophy? Maybe that would help.
I think so. There's something in there. It's like Space Jam. Last thing, Sal, last part of our game. I say to you, Sal would beat Joe House. That's right, Joe House. And House eats 4 in a rematch at Acme Oyster House in New Orleans. Over or under reaction. How do you feel about this?
House and I will be there for the first time together since in 9 years. When we went there, we had that House eats 3. I don't want to sway the odds. I'm going to say underreaction because I'm confident I could avenge my loss. I put it in quotes because the judges screwed me. Apparently, there's some rule where you're not allowed to vomit up everything you ate the first 45 minutes, and none of it is supposed to land on one of the judges. I don't know. Whatever. Did you eat breakfast yet, Tate? I'm going to say underreaction.
Oh, yeah. That was a classic moment in time. I hope that you guys can run it back. And like you said, I think you won. You might not have won by the record books, but as far as the visible act of what was going on there, you won that one.
The best part is I swear to God we went out to eat right afterwards because, I was depleted. I was dehydrated.
You're hungry. You need something in your stomach. Yeah, right. New Orleans is a very fun place. I'm glad you guys are going to be back down there. Let's call up the Riverboat captain now. Let's do some prop culture because we got a fun one, Sal. The question this week is simple. What's the best book for a player to read on the sidelines during an NFL playoff game? We got the odds right now. The favorite, the playbook. Yes, that is something that you can look at on the tablet. 3-1. The Holy Bible, the original one, not the Trump version. 5-1. The TB12 method, how to achieve a lifetime of sustained peak performance by Tom Brady at 10-1. You can't lose them all by the great Cousin Sal, 25-1, and the field at even odds. What say you, Sal?
There's a copy right behind me, Tate. Sorry, I don't like to toot my own horn, but I'm going. I mean, for 25-1,
come on,
you can't lose them all. AJ Brown, take a copy, read it on the sideline. You'll learn about how to hide the fact that you're betting women's Korean soccer from your wife on your honeymoon as you're racing down to the business center to check scores at 7 in the morning. You'll learn how my Aunt Chippy used my money and lost it as I was a 9-year-old in a bowling alley playing video poker. You'll learn how I set up a WWE wrestling pool in 7th grade. I mean, still the most money I've ever made. So yes, do that, AJ Brown. No one's throwing you the ball anyway, so it's a nice read. 2.5 hours.
I think if you're Simon & Schuster, Penguin, Random House, any of these book places, you should be paying players to read your books on the sidelines. I feel like this is a new start to a new industry. The book that AJ Brown is reading is now #1 on Amazon. Sal, I think we reach out to the powers that be. We get your book in their hands, and we cash in on this 25-1.
You know what? I'm going to stick it into Big Dom's back pocket and make sure it gets in the right hands, like you said.
There you go. He's probably got some cargo pants on. You can put it in one of those pockets and make it happen. So there you have it. I like that. 25-1. We're both going to go with that. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to do some line look-aheads and track to the futures with Cousin Sal for Divisional Weekend. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Thru the Ringer. We're here with Cousin Sal, and we are very excited for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Got some incredible matchups. Sal, as you look forward, just big picture here, how excited are you for these matchups? I mean, we got potentially the game of the decade with these MVP matchups between Lamar and Josh Allen, but a lot of good games across the slate.
All right, well, listen, last week I said this is the best week of the year sports-wise for football, and then we got some really, really lousy, nasty NFL games. Hopefully, the 4 divisional games and the national championship on Monday, this becomes the best week. Let's make it happen, Tate.
Let's do it, and let's start here with the Houston Texans taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs favored in this one, -8.5. Total 41.5. The Chiefs have not played a meaningful game in 23 days. We have the classic rest versus rust argument going on, Sal. What do you like in this game, and what are you looking forward to?
Why is it an argument anymore? I don't understand. The Chiefs, all they do is win Super Bowls, and all they do is have buys, and all they do is sit their guys in Week 18. So I don't know if it should be a legitimate argument. The Texans get the early game again. This is like a Shakey's prequel. I feel like if the Texans, I think the NFL came out with it, if the Texans make the Super Bowl, it will not be a night game. Like Fox is going to replace Hell's Kitchen's reruns.
Big noon kickoff on Fox.
Yes,
there you go.
That's exactly what it'll be. I guess this exactly with Simmons. 27-19 when they played that round robin thing around Christmas. Sounds about right. Good teaser game, I think, to start your week, and then just wait for Ohio State, like I said, on Monday to catch the second leg of that teaser and maybe play with your kids in between. You'd have to get some kids, but yeah, play with any kids.
I gotta go talk to some kids on the street and tell them about teasers and parlays and get them in on this Texans game. I like the Texans defense, Sal. They look great. That was their first win against a team with a winning record since Week 5. So the Texans have a little bit of momentum, but like you said, why would we bet against the Chiefs? I don't feel like there's a world in which this happens. Maybe the Texans can cover the points here, but we like the Chiefs in this one. Next up, line look ahead. Let's look at Commanders taking on the Lions. Lions -9.5 in this one. The total 55.5. What do you like here, Sal?
Linus minus.
Yeah. Sounds like a character from Charlie Brown or something, or The Wizard of Oz or Wicked. I don't know. So one of those things.
That was a lot of fun. And thank you, Jaden Daniels, for giving us one good game, right, in the NFL. But it might be a tiny bit too much love for Jaden Daniels. Don't forget, C.J. Stroud looked awesome against the Browns last year in his rookie year. Like a miracle worker, creamed them, and then went to Buffalo and got hammered. Went to Baltimore. This round is a little bit of a different beast, playing rested players with everything to lose. I might be taking Detroit, giving anything under 10 here.
Is there a way to, now that's at 9.5, maybe you tease it up and you get Commanders at 10 points, Sal? Maybe you feel a little bit better. That feels like a very Simmons thing to do there.
Yeah.
But maybe you get it up to 10 points and they could cover that number. But like you said, the Lions have been the best offensive team, and the Commanders feel like, you got your one playoff win, you got momentum, and now you're going to go meet a team that's, looking at the Super Bowl and expecting
if they bow out, the Lions, sorry to interrupt you, but
no, you're good.
You were going so long there. I didn't know when the hell you were going to stop. No, but could the NFC North be like the SEC? If like the Lions lose this game, like what the hell happened? Green Bay didn't compete. Vikings didn't compete. Lions lost at home. They're kind of up against that. I think they're better than that, though.
Yeah, the Lions. You have to deliver the goods for the sake of the NFC North. And now we got divisional pride going on. You know what I mean? We joke about conference pride. Now we got divisional pride. What a world we live in. Next up, South Line, look ahead. We got the LA Rams taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. This is going to be a battle of defensive lines. Two staunch defensive lines. Eagles -6.5 in this one. Total 44.5. What do you like in this one, Sal?
It's been bouncing around from 6.5 to 5.5. I think opened 6.5 and then went down. I thought this was a little steep, but our friends at FanDuel agreed that this might be too much to ask of LA and the Rams. Eagles fans, either way, we know they're going to be on their best behavior as Rams visiting fans come through. Just kidding. They're probably going to be awful. I want Goff and Stafford. Come on.
Yeah.
Do it, Rams.
We need it. Last time we saw these teams match up, it was Week 12. Eagles defeated the Rams 37-20. Saquon had 255 yards in that game, Sal. Franchise record. So something to keep an eye on. Both these teams with winning records against the spread this year. Eagles 12-6, Rams 10-8. So this is going to be an interesting game. I could see both sides of the equation. I like that young D-line for the Rams. 9 sacks. That was a playoff record. The fact that they were able to get 80 sack yards against Sam Darnold, they were able to draw up a lot of different stuff.
Going to be tough to do that against Hurts. He has better pocket awareness, steps up. Yeah, you're right. Like -81 yard, they really didn't have a chance. That puts your team in terrible spot. But yeah, Barkley had a huge game the first time they matched up. Of those yards, I don't think you mentioned, 80 of them came on sliding. He slid that one play from his own 10 to the opposite 10. It was really something to see.
Well, we just learned this in basketball recently, in college basketball. There's been a lot of players that get the ball, Sal, and they slide across the court. It's not actually a travel if they don't make a move. So if you're just sliding without
the basket. Is that true?
Yeah,
really?
That's a new thing that's going on. And people are dunking on people for not knowing this. It's kind of in the fine print of the travel
So if you
rule.
have the right shoes, you could really just never have to step.
It just goes to show that nobody knows what a travel is, and we'll be arguing to the end of time. Last game and the most interesting game, line look ahead here. We got the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Buffalo Bills. Bills +1.5 in this one. The total 51.5. This is the MVP showdown we've all been waiting for, Sal. Who do you like in this one?
Well, the Ravens are favored now, right? Or did it tic-tac back again?
Oh, no.
Sure.
Sorry. Now the Ravens are, Ravens -1.5, Bills +1.5. Yeah.
This is an incredible amount of disrespect that it's played for the Bills and for you for not knowing the line here. But
sorry,
the Bills,
it's moving in real time,
no, that's
Sal.
okay. Well, the Ravens are good. I love the Bills here at home getting 1.5. And then Simmons explained to me that Derrick Henry was a very solid football player in high school. I mean, who knew? Like, I thought all these guys started like their third year in college and then were lucky enough to be drafted. But it shouldn't really matter. But I'm very surprised, like I said, home team, hostile crowd with what seems to be an MVP quarterback is considered the underdog. I might even end up taking Baltimore, but I am really just surprised by this line.
Yeah, I'm worried about the Bills' defense holding up against Derrick Henry, who, like you said, was a really good high school player. And I think that they have not been watching the tape, and they have not seen the high school tape. And I worry about the Bills being able to handle this guy. But this is going to be a fascinating game. Lamar 0-2 in the divisional round, Sal. So this is kind of a chance for him to rewrite a little bit of the prognostications out there about his career in the playoffs. So a big moment for the Ravens. But like you said, Bills getting points. I like that a lot there.
Do you think the defensive coordinator for the Bills is showing the players middle school, like highlights from Derrick Henry, during recess and stuff, running with the
look at this
guy. This is your guy. He must be stopped. I don't know.
You just got to bracket them, double team him, right? These are all the terms. Spy him, whatever it is, whatever it takes. Let's track to the future. FanDuel, our friends at FanDuel who are putting the show on, they have some playoff milestones that you can go check out right now on the site. And Sal, there's one that you really like when it comes to the playoff milestones.
There's a few I like, but I'm leaning heavy on Detroit, at least to score some points here. This is for the entire playoffs, though. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 200 or more receiving yards, plus 160, Tate. If they win as big favorites against Washington, they'll have at least 2 games. If they win the NFC Championship, they'll have 3 games. So 200 yards in 3 games. But let's say they have 2. That's what I'm counting on. Let's say he plays 2 games. He has a bunch of 100-yard games this year. He has a 193-yard game and a 161-yard game. This is like fast money on Family Feud. He's the first one up. Washington's the first one up. If he puts up a 163, we're looking good for the second family member, whoever comes in. So if Sunday is any indication, he could beat up that dicey Sean Lattimore, and it'll be pretty good.
I like that you can get plus money there. I'm actually one of those people. There's the Kelsey Brothers podcast. I'm a St. Brown Brothers podcast guy. I love the St. Brown Brothers. Good. I love their podcasts, and I like that bet as well, Sal. I like DeAndre Hopkins, another receiver, 200-plus yards receiving in the playoffs, plus 1,000. You can get that number. I think that Hopkins is one of those 1A receiver types that now that he has the stage, now that he's going to be, kind of put on that pedestal, put out there on national television, he's going to show the world why he is one of those 1A guys, and I think he's going to have some big games in the playoffs and going to be a big part of what the Chiefs do in the playoffs. So I like him 200-plus yards in the playoffs, and I think the Chiefs are going to win games, so he's going to have more opportunities. So,
that's a fun one, too.
Yeah, two really good receivers on 2 really good teams, so there's some fun stuff there. Let's do a line look ahead and talk about the national championship. We got some college football national championship props. Sal, what do you like the most here?
All right, we'll be picking this game on Against All Odds probably on the... When is this? Monday?
Yeah, Monday, right. January 20th.
Yes, we're doing it. By the time you listen to this, that podcast will be out, or maybe not. Notre Dame, first drive. They're going to punt, Tate. Little heavy vig here, minus 145. But listen, the last time anyone scored on Ohio State on the first drive was 5 games ago against Indiana, right there in Columbus. Like, I can't even believe that was, and afterwards, after they scored on them in the first drive, they've apologized. They're like, no, I know no one's supposed to score on you guys. Notre Dame also hasn't scored on their first possession in their 3 playoff games. They should just boot it on first down. What's the point? That defense is locked in. Jack Sawyer, Sonny Styles, the rest are showing me something good here. I like this. Punt, minus 145. Notre Dame first drive.
I think that's a great call there. I also think that punt might get blocked, Sal. So I don't know if there's any odds on that, but I wouldn't be shocked if Jack Sawyer climbs over a Notre Dame offensive lineman and blocks this punt and runs it back for a touchdown. I like the value there. I'm going to go with first scoring play, an Ohio State field goal. I think that they try to go for the touchdown. They play it smart. They get a field goal. Very Big Ten football of Ohio State. You can get that at plus 400. And a fun fact I had here, I looked up the last time that Notre Dame has actually beat Ohio State in football, Sal. It was 1936, and they were on a 2-game winning streak. They won back in 1935, 18-13, but in 1936, they won 7-2, Sal. And then I looked up what was happening back in 1936. The Great Depression was happening. So these are some not-so-fun facts. The Great Depression was happening. Mickey Mouse was becoming popular, which is my nightmare. Now I have to go to Disneyland every once in a while. Jesse Owens, he won 4 gold medals. That was pretty impressive. The Hoover Dam was completed. So these are the things that were happening the last time that Notre Dame beat Ohio State in football. Ohio State has won 6 straight since then, Sal. So I say all that to say I would take and bet the house on Ohio State in this game.
You're betting the house on the big house. Yeah, I like that. The Hoover Dam, whatever happened to that? Did they ever complete it?
We need that water. Yeah, we need that water.
All right. Let's get that water over here.
Yeah, I'm glad they got that done. But 1936, the last time Notre Dame was able to get it done. That'll be a fun matchup on Monday night. Last one, line look ahead. We got a college basketball play of the day. This is for Wednesday. And Sal, we're making college basketball picks. This warms my heart.
I love it. I've hit 5 in a row, Tate. You'd be proud of me on Against All Odds. Actually, 4 of them were college. One of them was the Timberwolves, I think, on Christmas. I don't know what it was. Anyway,
I thought it was going to be EuroLeague or something.
No, I'll get there. I'm going to go. This is a pick I gave out on Against All Odds. UNLV over ranked Utah State. They're getting 4.5. Aggies with 1 loss. They come to the Thomas and Mack. Tough place to play. I know the Rebs got blown out by Colorado State the other day, but watch them play tough. I know we're tight on time. I'm going to take UNLV plus 4.5. What do you like?
I like that, and Utah State got a great home atmosphere, but UNLV got some pedigree, and I like Coach Kruger, so I think that's a good pick there. I'm going to go with the top 10 tilt, a matchup between Kansas and Iowa State. Iowa State, number 2 in the country right now. If you haven't watched them play, go check them out, and maybe check them out in this game. Preseason number 1, Kansas, not been so great this year, Sal. I think this is going to be a signature win for this group. They're going to go into Iowa State. They're going to go into Ames and get a win. You can get money line Kansas plus 235. Sal.
Wow, so, and 6.5 for the regular line. All right, Tate, let's do that. Let's parlay those together. You know what? You win $57,000 for just $3. Yeah.
Perfect. I can donate that to the Carolina NIL Fund, aka Michael Lombardi. That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'll do with that. Sal, where can we find all your work? And we'll let you go enjoy the rest of your day.
Against All Odds, Ringer Podcast Network, Ringer pregame show Saturday and Sunday on FanDuel TV. And I do something called Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. Hank Azaria is the guest this week.
I love it. A-listers always on Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. Sal, you're the best. Thanks so much for coming on the show. We'll talk to you next week.
See you, buddy.
Welcome back to Thru the Ringer. Joining us now from the Ringer NFL show and from the Ringer at large, it is Diante Lee. Diante, welcome back to the show, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. I'm liking the fact that I'm able to pop my head in every month or so and just check in with what's going on around the football world.
Well, we need experts because there's a lot of hot air that's happening on this show. So we need people like you to come in and set us straight. Let us know what's actually happening out here. And we got the divisional round. We got some good games. And I want to start with Houston heading to Kansas City. We saw Houston against the Chargers, my beloved Chargers. They showed up. The defense was great. We were talking off air about Lassiter, on the defensive side of the ball. The Texans defense came to life. Now they're going to take on the challenge of going to Kansas City. Big picture in this game. What should we look for, and do the Texans really have a chance against the defending champs?
I think the thing we're looking for, this probably answers both questions at once. I think the most important thing to look for is what they adjust in this matchup versus how they played them the first time around late December. I think that Kansas City was just getting Hollywood Brown back, so you're adding bodies to the receiving core. Houston played more man in that game than they had in any other game this season. And I think we just saw that the Chiefs offense, when they have one guy or enough speed on the field to be able to challenge tight coverage, Patrick Mahomes is good enough to pick it apart. So I want to see what the adjustment is going to be in this game for Houston's defense. And that's probably the only pathway the Texans have reliably in order to make this one interesting. You don't want to go in a back and forth shootout with Kansas City in a playoff environment, especially at Arrowhead. You know what that defense is and how good they are at putting together these game plans to be able to make quarterbacks uncomfortable. If you're DeMeco Ryans, you're leaning on your coverage unit and hoping that they force some turnovers and that pass rush gets home to bother Mahomes.
Well, these are general narrative questions, but 23 days is the number that you come back to if you're just thinking about this Chiefs team. It's been a long time since they've really had to turn on the switch. And granted, these are the two-time defending champs, so they obviously can do that. We know they can. They've proven it multiple times. But is there any world in which they struggle, they come out a little sluggish, Houston gets some confidence, and maybe they put some pressure on the Chiefs at home?
I think it's interesting to talk about that as an abstract. I think when you're thinking about Andy Reid and how he usually comes out of bye weeks, this is something that's been storied for him his entire career, going back to the early days in Philadelphia, is that he's one of the best game planners coming off of long breaks in the NFL. And I would expect that to be the same here. They've got almost a month now to address their offensive line issues. We saw Joe Thuney playing some left tackle, moving positions, and playing that at a high level towards the close of the season. I think that the running backs will be a little bit fresher. We might see just a new version of Kansas City's offense because they can treat these 3 weeks almost like a mini camp where you can really address your issues and try to introduce some new ideas that might help your offense out.
Yeah, I like it. Let's talk about the MVP showdown. We got Lamar Jackson facing off against Josh Allen in Buffalo. Bill Simmons said this was the game of the decade. I don't know if it's the game of the decade, but it is the game that we are all talking about in football circles and beyond. What do you expect to see in this one, and what should we try to be looking for? Because obviously we're going to do these grand, big, sweeping narrative generalizations after the fact. But going into the game, what should we watch for between these two guys?
It's funny, right? Like when you think of the old NFL films that's in slow motion with the symphonic music playing in the background and being narrated, I think that the NFL is always searching for those moments, and they do a good job of manufacturing it sometimes where it doesn't, where it's not needed. I think this is one of the few times where the stakes coming into the game are exactly as big as everybody is saying it is from the moment we had this matchup locked in. And I expect to see fireworks. It might not be high scoring. I think the weather's going to be cold and ugly in Buffalo no matter what. But I think in terms of a heavyweight matchup, you've got two great rushing attacks. You've got the two best quarterbacks in this one season so far this year. And you've got an opportunity now to try to climb that mountain to face off with Mahomes and see if either of these quarterbacks can change their career narratives right now. And I think that you're going to feel all of that in every possession when they match up this week.
We'll see what happens there. Let's talk about the Rams. They're traveling to Philadelphia. These two D-lines are electric. If you like D-line play, just watch what these two do. They're going to go head-to-head this weekend. What do we expect to see? And do you like the Rams having a fighting chance going up to Philadelphia in this game?
It's interesting, right? Because if you just compare the depth charts, you should feel comfortable. I think the line's at about 6.5 in the Eagles' favor. And I think that that's a reflection of just what the talent mismatch is. But if you look at the way these teams are playing, the Rams have been playing their best ball coming out of this wild card game. Their defense has played much better over the last month than it was to start the season. And if you look at Philadelphia's offense, obviously the specter of Saquon Barkley breaking off big runs is always there. As a matter of fact, his best game of the season happened against the Rams in November. But I do think when you look at that pass rush and you look at Philadelphia's struggles in the drop back passing game, there's an opportunity for this one to get weird. And if you're the Rams and you've got Matthew Stafford, you've got to feel like we've got a quarterback that's going to give us a chance no matter what. And if we get any high variance plays in our favor with our pass rush forcing turnovers, getting sacks, the chances are you go to the second half forcing Philadelphia to pass. And if that's the case, that's the best outcome that you can ask for if you're the Rams.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stafford seems like he's in that mode. If you've been watching him for the past month, I went to that Bills game and I saw it in person, and it looked like Matt Stafford from 2020, 2021. So watch out for Matt Stafford. He can do anything when it comes to the playoffs right about now. Next up, let's talk about Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. They're going to travel up to Detroit. They look good, and Jaden's first playoff game gets a win down there in Tampa Bay. Now he goes to Detroit. The line's around 9.5 now. Obviously, a lot of love for the Lions, but is there a chance Washington could make some noise and get an upset here?
I don't see it, if I'm being honest. I just think that there are so many holes still in the Commanders roster in ways that the Lions are designed to attack. They run the ball really well up front. Washington likes to play with lighter bodies up front. We've seen them against the Packers, who are similar defensively. They kind of had their way with them. Same with Minnesota. So I'm not concerned with the Lions on offense against Washington's defense. This is going to have to be a shootout if the Commanders want any chance to stay in this game. And I will give Jaden Daniels his credit. What we've seen from him over the last month, he's been able to clean up the turnovers. You saw that in the Bucs game. He's protecting the ball well. They've done a good job of not asking too much of him, and he's been using his athletic ability as a scrambler to get this offense out of trouble. Even if the Lions are playing their best version of man coverage, which we know they want to do in that game, there's a chance that Jaden Daniels scrambles for a bunch of yards. And if they're able to possess the ball like they did against the Buccaneers, I think they can keep it close. I just don't think they have enough top-end talent to bring it home.
Yeah, I don't think Aaron Glenn's going to be sitting on the bench kind of serenading as he watches his defense dominate, because Jaden Daniels, you don't have that type of ability when you have a guy with his type of ability. But that'll be a fun game. Let's talk coaching shakeups quickly in the NFL. We got 6 jobs right now that are open. Vrabel just gets the Patriots job. So we got Bears, Cowboys, Jets, Jags, Raiders, Saints. Aaron Glenn will be in those conversations. Obviously, Ben Johnson will be in those conversations. Obviously, that'll come into play. Just looking at the 6 openings that we have, Diante, is there one that you are the most intrigued by? Obviously, you got the Brady storyline with the Raiders. You got Jerry Jones and the storyline with the Cowboys. Is there a gig out there that, you know, kind of is the apple of your eye as you look at the carousel?
For as much time as I've spent rolling my eyes with the Cowboys, I think the truth of the matter is that they're the most interesting opening right now. And I think when you look at the timeline, it makes it that much more interesting that they waited a week to release Mike McCarthy and part ways. They put themselves behind the 8 ball, couldn't interview guys that are in the playoffs last week.
Purposefully, right? Like they purposely put themselves behind the 8 ball.
The only reason why you would do that is if you had an assurance. Now, that would make it much more interesting, right? We're going to have to play that guessing game in the meantime of who it might be, and hopefully we get some good reporting coming out of it. I know that they spoke with Deion Sanders as of late. That's going to be an interesting storyline in all of this because this is the splashiest name. I would keep my eye on the Lions coordinators. I don't think that they would let Mike McCarthy walk and miss out on an opportunity to cast a wide net in terms of interviews unless one of the agents there let the Cowboys know if you've still got an opening around February, that we'll still be willing to talk to you.
Yeah, and there's going to be some clamoring for Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn. Both those guys will have multiple options. Every single one of those jobs has tried to interview both of those guys. So they're going to have their pick, it seems. Diante, you stay right there. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk some college football with Diante Lee. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Thru the Ringer. We're here with the Ringer's very own Diante Lee. We just talked NFL divisional round. Now we're going to talk college football playoff, and we finally made it to the national championship game. Diante, how you holding up? Keeping up with all these bowl games, all these playoff games? It's kind of like a war of attrition, very similar to football. How do you feel about the whole process right now?
I mean, the playoffs have been wild. I think that we haven't gotten tight games as much as we might have liked in the 12-game format, but I think that we've gotten some dramatic outcomes, right? Ohio State coming out of this, 2-3 week break looking like a war machine, unstoppable, I think has been the most interesting thing. And they've got the talent, I think, to bring it home. You look at Notre Dame, who entered the playoffs knowing that they had a great head coach, but maybe not as talented a roster, but you've just seen them play competent football, great defense, and basically drag this offense into the national championship game. And that doesn't even touch on the Arizona States and Penn State and all the other teams that looked viable throughout this process. It's been a lot, but I've had a lot of fun enjoying this new format.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And this is probably one of those years where there were two teams, like old BCS style, that we could have put there and we would have felt good about it. And Oregon's probably the most upset about how the shakeout of all this playoff system worked out for them this year. But again, this is where we are. Monday night, we got Ohio State taking on Notre Dame, two perennial powerhouses in college football. Notre Dame plus 8.5 in this game. Obviously, Ohio State heavy favorites. They've won 6 straight against Notre Dame. Last time Notre Dame won, I was talking to Cousin Sal about this, 1936, Diante Lee. Is there a path for Notre Dame to win this game, or does it feel like almost a foregone conclusion that the Buckeyes are going to be champs yet again?
I mean, Notre Dame has been playing a level of defense that makes it hard to rule them out in any game. I just think when I'm watching Ohio State, if you can't score 30 to 35 in a given game, you're going to have a hard time beating this version of the offense unless Will Howard comes out and just has his worst game. And I think that what you've seen from Chip Kelly and Ryan Day in building this offense in the playoffs, they've done a great job at protecting him from needing to make these high leverage plays against, top defenses. He looked great at times against Texas, who has one of the most talented defenses in college football. And I think that with all the man coverage that we know Notre Dame wants to play, you're going to get plenty of opportunities to push the ball downfield to Jeremiah Smith, and you probably only need 2 or 3 of those big ones to be able to win this game.
Is there a world where we have a 2012 scenario where, I mean, obviously there was the Manti Te'o storyline behind that game and it made it a little bit awkward, but I remember that game. Notre Dame came out and within, 2 minutes of real game time, it was a wrap. It was game over. Is this one of those games where Ohio State could dominate that early, or do you think that it won't be that drastic of a difference? I hope it isn't for, the common fan.
I hope not. I think if it happens, it'll actually have less to do with Ohio State's offense and more with Ohio State's front. Their front seven against a young, inexperienced, often injured Notre Dame offensive line is going to pose serious problems for Marcus Freeman's program. I think if it gets out of hand in that way, it's going to be because, JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer and their linebackers are blitzing. They're bringing a bunch of different fronts. They're stopping the run, and they're forcing Riley Leonard to be flushed out of the pocket. And what we've seen in the playoffs from him, he's great when he gets to be a runner. But if you force him to sit in the pocket and have to make decisions downfield, this offense is going to have a hard time moving the ball. And Ohio State's defense has been as hot a unit as we've had in the college football playoff. If it gets out of hand, it's going to be because those guys have a big day up front.
Yeah, Riley Leonard. Some are saying the Daniel Jones of college football, but we'll leave that there. He got him in the national championship game, and he is a fun player when he gets outside the pocket and makes some plays. So some fun stuff there. Let's talk about Arch Manning. Anytime we talk college football, we got to talk Arch Manning. He is going to be the starting quarterback. Ewers is going to go into the draft process, so it's officially the Arch era in Austin. How do we feel about that? Does it feel like the table has been set for him to get them over the hump and win the title? What do we expect in year one from Arch?
I think it's going to be interesting, right? Because the question with Texas coming into this year was whether or not the quarterback play was going to be good enough to lift that roster over the hump. You know that they've got one of the best, if not the best, offensive play caller in football with Steve Sarkisian at the helm. They're always going to have receiver talent. The offensive line should be even better going forward. I think this year they kind of had some fits and starts against elite players or elite opponents. And I think Arch's athletic ability, if it's as good as we've seen in flashes and spurts this year, there's a chance that they're going to have the game-breaking factor they need to win the SEC next season. And if you're good enough to win in the SEC, you'll be good enough to win a national title.
Let's talk transfer portal. Carson Beck was the big one, leaving Georgia to go play at Miami. Going to be the highest paid player in college football history, actually in college sports history, if you want to take it to that level. Is that big deal? Does that make Miami a contender again? Is it bigger than Cam Ward last season? Like, where do we expect Beck to be next year?
I think that when you look at the figures, right, when you see the commas, connected to what the NIL deals are going to be, I think that it looks like a big deal on its face. I just watched too much of Georgia and watched him struggle with being a decision maker, struggle with handling pressure, struggle against the best opponents that Georgia had on the schedule all year. And he was a little banged up to finish the season, right? So maybe he comes back a little bit better version of himself. But I would say in terms of guys who entered this season, I don't know if anybody's stock fell more at the quarterback position from start of the year to end than Carson Beck. And I mean, he's still a valuable prospect, obviously evidenced by what he's earning in name, image, and likeness money. I just don't know if that's enough to really change Miami's outcome, even though he will have a really talented unit around him.
Yeah, he went from the heavy favorite to be the number one pick to completely off the board and back in college. And speaking of the number one pick, there is a controversy, a conversation, whatever you want to call it at the top. What will the Titans do with the number one pick? Will it be Shedeur Sanders? Will it be Cam Ward? If they keep the pick and the Titans are making that pick, which quarterback do you see as their pick, or will it not be a quarterback? Will they go for an offensive lineman or someone else?
I think the Titans have so many needs that they're going to start right at the top and say they need a new quarterback. They're going to have a fresh start at that position. I think that Brian Callahan, as the head coach, is going to need that if he wants to extend his leash there after how bad they looked on offense. And if I'm Brian Callahan, if I'm whoever the next general manager is going to be there in Tennessee, I'm sitting down and I'm probably leaning a little bit more towards Shedeur because you're going to get a safe decision maker in the pocket, somebody who's accurate. He's not going to put the ball in harm's way. And if you watch Will Levis this year, that was the issue for this offense. And if you have a guy who can just be safe with the football, you'll at least give yourself a chance to be effective on that side of the ball.
I like it. And also you have an asset that, let's say Jerry does hire Prime, you have an asset that they want and they're willing to trade for, and you basically can hold him hostage until, they make the moves to get him. Kind of like what happened with the Bronny James scenarios we were talking about. Why doesn't one of these teams just take him and try to get some value for it? So I think that would be a fun pick, a good pick, and potentially the number one pick. Diante, we appreciate you coming on the show. Where can we find all your amazing work? And then we'll let you go enjoy the rest of your day.
You see me covering the NFL and college football at TheRinger.com. You can find me on X at Diante Lee FB, and the same is true on Blue Sky. I'm usually tweeting out my takes about the sport one way or the other, or something that has to do with music. So if you're into either, you can find me there.
There you have it, Diante Lee. We appreciate you coming on the show as always, man, and we'll have you back very soon. Stay tuned. We'll be right back here on Thru the Ringer right after the break. There you have it for another edition of Thru the Ringer. Thanks to Cousin Sal, as always, for coming on the show. Thanks to Diante Lee. Divisional football this weekend. Tune in. Going to be a lot of fun. The Ringer pregame show on Saturday and Sunday. Go check that out. This has been Thru the Ringer. I'm Tate Frazier, and we'll see you next week.